August the 12th, 2014, saw Peter Davison, Sarah Sutton, Matthew Waterhouse, and Janet Fielding reunite for the first time as the Fifth Doctor, Nyssa, Tegan, and Adric all together for the Fifth Doctor box set. Now, we're back 10 years later, reminiscing on this pretty special box set, I
It's
feel.
a monumental box set in Big Finish's catalogue because
Hmm.
it's a proto relaunch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even to the point now that the website renamed it to The Fifth Doctor Adventures Volume 1, more in line with the current naming format. But, it still says box set on the cover. It's funny because box sets were much more rare these days, weren't they? So just
Mm.
having it be
Well,
The
it
Fifth
was an
Doctor's box
event.
set, yeah, made
Uh,
sense. Whereas now,
every character gets a box set or
every Fifth
individual
Doctor release is a
release.
box set at this point.
Yeah. Because if we look back at 2014 and the output, you had your main range, you had your Fourth Doctor,
Yeah, at the
uh,
start of the early adventures.
the start of the early adventures. The Companion Chronicles, I think, were just about rounding
Yeah, they
off.
finished off June.
So these box set releases were a nice little bonus for your listening. And I think it made it feel like an event because this was an occasion, not only having this new TARDIS team, but to have this, real treat of a box set. And let me tell you, it is a treat.
Yeah. I mean, you'd had Peter Davison and Sarah Sutton at Big Finish since the very beginning, really. They very
Mm.
much exploited that gap between Time Flight and Arc of Infinity to spin them off in their own series of adventures there. You'd had Janet Fielding back once before for The Gathering. They finally convinced Matthew Waterhouse to join them.
It
And
was
we got the season
interesting
19 crew back.
because Matthew Waterhouse, I think, did Dark Shadows before he did the Doctor Who
Hmm.
ones.
Here we are 10 years later. He's still doing it. He's done some with Tom now.
Yeah,
We've got one coming out, a six-parter
The Great
next
Beyond.
month, The Great Beyond. So, yeah, it's firing all cylinders, really. And this is where all that started. And it very much opened up a new era for Big Finish to play with,
Yeah,
really. And I think they go at it in style because it very much has that feel of what the third Doctor Adventures went for and still go for now with recreating an era. Because it's got all that synth music going on. It feels very right for the time. In many ways, it fits into the season more than
the
Big Finish
TV
often try
stories.
to do. Like specifically Psychodrome here. There's two four-parters in this box set, both set at different points during season 19. You got Psychodrome by Jonathan Morris, which is set just after
We
Castrovalva
have
before.
Tegan getting a room.
Yeah, that's true. You have moments like that, like starting off in the TARDIS that feel very era authentic. And it's very
The
much about
music.
filling that gap of the characters and them getting to know each other.
I think this is what Psychodrome's all about. It's them
Mm.
coming together and getting behind this new Doctor because this story plays with sort of companions, everyone's sort of fear and in their subconscious, and this is them sort of getting behind this new Doctor, going, okay, he's there to help us now.
Yeah. It's wonderful how it is almost still post-regeneration story. Like,
Hmm.
obviously Castrovalva is the main one, but there's still some getting to know himself here. And it's something that Big Finish hasn't really been able to play with in many other places.
I would
And
say Cold Fusion's the closest thing to that in terms of early,
hmm,
early Fifth Doctor.
yeah, again, playing about in that same ballpark. But like with every other Doctor, there's not really that same equivalent, is there?
No, I think because the Fifth Doctor was such a shift from Tom, and
Hmm.
a big change. I think Peter Davison in this story, there's a lovely bits of Four to Doomsday in his performance where he's quite squeaky and energetic,
Yeah.
and quite high pitched in places where I'm like, oh yeah, this you can tell this is early Fifth Doctor because there's a different energy to early Fifth Doctor compared to what you get later on.
He's still less sure of himself. And I suppose you don't have the burden of Adric's death upon him at this point.
Even though this
That
story hints at it, this story's great at foreshadowing at events of the Fifth Doctor
yeah.
era. You
It
have
takes so much from both right from State of Decay,
Yeah,
oh, not State of Decay, sorry, Full Circle,
yeah.
right up to Earthshock.
I think this story is such a love letter to the two Bidmead series, really. And I think if
Hmm.
you're a fan of that, you'll get a lot out of it. And I think this is the brilliant thing about Psychodrome is it's a great story when you first listen to it, but it's a story that really rewards you re-listening to it because you know where the story's going and you pick up on these little thematic things that will link into the other series.
Yeah. I mean, the plot is them landing in what seems like this great big laboratory. And, it looks like it's a place inhabited by giants. And then they get separated in some tunnels and start meeting quite a few different groups of people, really. Like, there's a lot of characters in this one, but it all works very well. I think it's
Mm.
a cast of just, you got your main four and then four guest actors.
Which all
And
have very different roles to play in these different sections.
yeah, you've got like this fairy tale castle, this crashed spaceship, this monastery, these explorers out in the wilds. There's a lot going on here, which may sound a bit daunting, but the way it all works and then the way the story peels back its layers and shows you what it's doing is very clever and rather wonderful. Great character work as well. It is the perfect second story for a Doctor to have, I think.
Well, you've got that nice foreshadowing about Davison, the curiosity getting the better of him. Sharash Jek said that, and then of course you've got him saying he'll lay down his life for a complete stranger. Kez Ramdazani.
Mm.
It's wonderful. And one thing what I particularly like is even the acting feels authentically 80s with sort of the castle with like the sort of lord and king. How that just feels right out of King's Demon with that sort of level of ham.
Yeah, they're very much going for recreating the era here.
Yeah, it's
And I
beautiful.
think, yeah, when it comes to Big Finish, I feel like it's along a certain pipeline of Doctor Who fans. I think the regular route you probably go through is you start off with your new series, and then you go from there into Classic Who. And I feel like Big Finish is the next logical step from that. Like, once you've watched enough Classic Who, you're like, oh, I want more from these characters, but I've run out of stories to watch now. Uh, Big Finish is the next logical step for that. And it's also a nice little blend of both classic and new. I mean, now even more so, because you do have the new series license, so it's literally new in there. But back then, it was the storytelling ethos of the classic series, but with
Yes,
the emotional depth
the modern
and
sensibilities of character.
yeah, all that in there. And so I think when you're considering that pipeline, it makes this an ideal box set for new listeners, particularly if you're a Fifth Doctor fan and you like season 19. This is the perfect little extension of that, I would say. I
Mm.
think it would be very interesting to do a binge of season 19 with these two stories in their place because they feel such a part of that season now to me.
Yeah, because I've recently watching season 19 just out of pleasure.
Hmm.
And then
We do
obviously
it from time to time.
we do it. Yeah, it's not just to do content on.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously we had this on the schedule, and it's just amazing, like you say, how these just slot in right from the word go with the synthy music straight away. You can picture the TARDIS flying off through space, and you get the wonderful, 10 minutes or so in the TARDIS console room. Um,
Hmm.
and just the characters still trying to get to know each other and find their, I guess, the power dynamics here, because there's a lot of frostiness between Tegan and Adric, and Tegan's quite a savage going, he's not your doctor anymore, and it's Adric's coming to terms with loss of his doctor. You've got the loss. Tegan and Nissa talking about the loss of Traken and Aunt Vanessa. It, like you say, it does a lot of heavy lifting of character, like the new series would do. Like it gives each
Hmm.
character time to stop, breathe, digest. These events that have happened, in the space of a couple of days for them.
Yeah, very much so. And it does fit with those characters' journeys within here. And then with the next story, you're going on to post Black Orchid. There's even a reference to the book, isn't there?
Mm.
That Lady Cranley gave him. And it's sort of creating a gap between Black Orchid and Earthshot. Written by John Dorney. Was it an award winner or just
I
an award
believe so.
nominee?
I believe it was up there for one. Yeah, I think it won like the Scribe.
Yeah. I mean, that's already telling you a lot
It's a
about this.
banger.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think it is my favorite of the two, but they're both very strong.
I think Iteration of I, it's this wonderful horror story, but it feels very akin to sort of season 18 sort of State of Decay. But it's horror centric, but there is some great scientific ideas, and I think Iteration of I is that. It sort of has your Stones of Blood effect, where your first episode is brilliant, part one feels wonderfully 60s.
That one's brilliant, isn't it?
It's amazing. And then as the story goes on, part two is great. Part three, the horror's still there. You get to part four, and the horror's completely gone, and it's all about, you know, the scientific explanations of it all, really.
Yeah, and a bit of action. It's a short part though, so it doesn't overextend that. Yeah, I feel like Psychodrome's more consistent overall, but Iterations of I has the higher highs, particularly at the start. I think Psychodrome also starts off stronger than it ends.
Yeah, I think Psychodrome kind of drifts in sort of midway part three.
There's like once the mystery's worked out, sort of similar to Iterations of I there, you do get to that point of, okay, it's just sort of about wrapping up the story now. But, you know, I don't hold that against either of these stories. I think they are brilliant throughout. It's just they have a much stronger start than they do end. But yeah, I mean, Iterations of I, it's set on this place called Fleming's Island.
It's your classic horror.
Fleming's Island in Ireland, sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got this cult who have employed some uni students to help them find God, because they believe that God is a number. And so they've got these mathematicians, you know, tapping away on their computers, trying to find this God for them to worship. But perhaps they found the devil instead. And that is your premise. The Doctor and co. then arrive on the island to find it deserted, and thus the mystery begins. And I think that's a wonderful way of bringing horror and season 19, Christopher H. Bidmead style, you know, stuff together there. Yeah. And the music again, it is perfectly recapturing that era while also having, you know, a bit of a horror twist to it. I do still get chills from this one.
Yeah, like certain cliffhangers and moments, you're like, God, that it just hits on every level. And at times it almost feels like you're listening to like a missing episode soundtrack, because it just feels that of the era.
Yeah. I mean, this was my first Fifth Doctor Big Finish and my first Big Finish box set as well. I mean, 2014 was the year we both got into Big Finish, and it's absolutely insane now that we are 10 years on from that.
I mean, I was a bit later. I think I was early 2015 when I listened to this.
Okay. Yeah, this was one I was quite excited for, and I got day one.
Because I think I picked Hinchcliffe over this set.
That's fair. I mean, that's another one perhaps we should do a throwback
yeah,
to.
We should. I remember enjoying that one.
Yeah, 5th of September, I believe, is the anniversary of that one.
Okay.
We shall see. But yeah, 5th Doctor box set.
Buy it.
It holds a special place in my heart, but I do think it is perfect for new listeners. And I feel qualified to say that because it was really
it was
one of my first big finishes, my first Fifth Doctor, first foray into that. And yeah, I think it's just got a lot going for it, particularly if you are a fan of this TARDIS crew on TV. And I mean, you know, even if you're a veteran Big Finish listener who hasn't picked this one up, I still think it's worth your time going for
Well, it's
because
some of
it's
the best
not.
Fifth Doctor being
Yeah,
finished, I would say.
definitely. I think there's sort of when you say something's good for new listeners, you're not necessarily saying, "Oh, don't pick it up if
Yeah,
you
you don't want to sound
do listen."
condescending.
Yeah, because it does have some quite high concept things going on in there, but I think they work at a level that
Well,
works for someone who's not necessarily used to audio yet.
it flexes what audio can be, I think.
Mm.
And I think because these stories are so authentic to that era, it doesn't require much of a leap for you to imagine these stories because the story does the heavy lifting for you.
It helps you paint the picture really
Mm.
well. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think it's brilliant. And it's always a pleasure to go back to.
It's one way you know it's good, but you
Hmm.
listen to it, you go, damn, this is really good.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say they're both 8 out of 10s.
I would go 8.5 Psychodrome, and then I'd go 9 for
Ooh,
iterations of I.
completely fair. I
Yeah.
think the first half of Iterations of I is a full on 10.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe gets bumped up to a 9 overall. Right. But yeah, I do really enjoy this box set. I think it's one of those ones as well where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Hmm.
Like, I think had these released individually, they'd still be amazing to have. But I think there's
As
something
a
nice that
package.
complements them. It's nice having them together here. It's, for those who are used to the current Big Finish box sets, you might be surprised by this being a bit of a chunky one if you buy physical, because it's still available on
Yes.
CD on the website.
And it's worth it because you get individual cover art because it's done part one
Yeah.
and two for both stories. So you get 4 covers.
Which is crazy now because we only
Mm.
get one cover as standard, really, for a whole box set.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we didn't know how good we had it back then. Writer's notes, director's notes as well, all tucked in
I mean,
there.
this was the year where they started cutting down on the booklet a little bit.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
no, I think that was 15, actually.
yeah, well, yeah, start of
Yeah, so this
15,
is the
yeah.
last gasp of the
Really getting your money's
that
worth
yeah.
physical product.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, 29.99 for CD, 24.99 for download. It's worth the price, but it's
Yeah,
one they put on sale pretty often, so
and with
you
Big
know,
Finish's multi-buy system as well.
mm, all that on the new website. You can get it for if you buy I don't know 9 releases, you get 17% off of that.
Yeah, so it it all works out, and I think it is definitely worth picking up.
Mm. Yeah, so all that's left to say is thank you for joining us on this trip down memory lane. We love a bit of nostalgia here.
We
Sort of
do.
a bit of both 80s nostalgia and 2014 nostalgia in
Yeah.
this one, all wrapped together. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.